You're watching Digital Photography One-on-One, where we answer your questions. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
In this episode, we're going to talk about how our lens choices impact our portraits. So let's dive in. Linda Connor wrote, "I notice you shoot a lot with your 70 to 200 millimeter lens. I have a Canon 70 to 200 lens I use for sports, but I never thought about using that lens for portraits. I usually use a smaller lens." Well, thanks for the question, Linda, and you're right. I do shoot with my 70 to 200 a lot. It's actually a Canon 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8L, and this is by far my favorite lens for portrait work. Now, I favor longer lenses for several reasons. The first is distortion. When you use a wide-angle lens, which is also known as a short lens, you have to get closer to your subject to fill the frame. This causes things to become distorted. Things in the foreground look very large, and things in the background look very small. Usually this translates into our subjects looking like they have big noses or odd-shaped bodies. A longer lens requires us to get farther from the subject, which will minimize that distortion. There's another reason I prefer longer lenses: angle of view. Angle of view is simply how much the lens can see. As the name implies, a wider angle lens has a wider angle of view. This means that we will see much more of the background. This can cause cluttered images. Longer lenses have a narrower angle of view. A narrower angle of view will allow us to capture less of the background. This will help us keep the image clean and uncluttered. Now let's put these two things into practice. I've asked Jenny to help me demonstrate this. We're going to begin by shooting a simple headshot with a wide-angle lens. Now I'm going to be using an 18 millimeter lens, which is going to really exaggerate things. All right, let's get started. All right, here we go. Big, huge smile. And a giant smile. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, do that again. All right, notice that in order to get a nice, tight headshot, I had to really get close to Jenny. And this really makes your subjects uncomfortable, and it's another reason I prefer longer lenses. Now, let's take a look at those photos. It's obvious in these shots we've got some issues. We have some serious distortion, and we have way too much of the background in the scene. All right, let's shoot again, this time with my trusty 70 to 200 millimeter. And because I'm using a longer lens, I'll have to shoot farther from my subject. This will put your model at ease, and it'll fix some of that distortion. All right, let's shoot that again. Yeah, hold that pose. There you go, good. Get really close here. Good. All right, that was much better. Let's take a look at those pictures. You can see that these shots have no distortion, and the background is nice and clean. Another reason I like my 70 to 200 millimeter is that it's a zoom lens. This allows me to compose medium-length shots as well as nice headshots without having to move. Take a look at these. All of these shots were taken from the same location. Okay, let's review. When shooting portraits, a longer lens has some benefits. A longer lens gives you a narrower angle of view. This will simplify your background and eliminate clutter. Less distortion. Since you're shooting from a greater distance from your subject, things will have a more realistic perspective. This will also allow your subjects to feel more comfortable because you're not so close. And a zoom lens will allow you to compose multiple shots from the same location. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use a wide-angle lens for portrait work. There are times when it's appropriate. For example, if you want to exaggerate a feature or take a very cute picture of your dog, a wide-angle lens is definitely the way to go. And the truth is, there are photographers who use wide-angle lenses for portrait photography and are very successful. Clayton is probably the most famous of these photographers. You can view his work at claytonphoto.com. It's terrific work. All right, well, thanks for joining us, and thank you, Jenny, for all your help. Remember, if you have a question, please send it to studiolighting@gmail.com. I'll see you next time.
This episode is brought to you by snapfactory.com and studiolighting.net. For more information about our workshops, visit snapfactory.com.
Good boy. Oh, there you go.